Con report got the boycott Israel flag in the back. It's everybody's favorite Marine slash intelligence officer slash chief weapons inspector. That's my favorite one of all of those. Scott Ritter. He's been on the show multiple times, really doesn't need an intro, and he's an author and was on the top of the Amazon charts for that newest collaboration you did with the what's the woman, the Russian girl?
Anya.
Just escaped. Anya, yes. Yeah, briefly up there. And then, of course, there's Perestroika, which is actually being borrowed by my son who decided to read it. So I don't have it. Told him I kept saying it was good. So he started trying to read through that too. That's second language. So, Scott, so much is going on. We got BB visiting the U.S. We had a attempted assassination on Donald Trump. Ukraine is just taking one L after another. And then we had the Houthis hitting Tel Aviv. But I think while I have you here, I want to focus mostly on the assassination. I call it professional incompetence, but I wanted to get your 2 cents on it. You know the layout. I've seen you talking to Larry Johnson and others. How is the Secret Service supposed to operate when they do a sweep? Because this guy pre-positioned a gun. Shouldn't they have been able to find that, or at least the ladder?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't. They will do an assessment of the site, and then they will work out from where the president's going to be. I mean, they figure out how they're going to ingress in, how they're going to get the president to the staging point. There, everything's planned. Everything's secure. Boom, to a staging point. From a staging point to the speaking point. And each place, every place the president is exposed to potential threat, they have to have locked it in. So it's not as though they have one plan and then the president just sort of moves into that plan. Literally, the plan, there's several plans. As the vehicles are moving in, they are preparing for contingencies at that point. What happens if? What happens if an FPV explosive drone comes in? How do we handle the threat, neutralize the threat, and remove the president? And each point,
on a scale of 1 to 10, how high would you rank, if 10 being the worst threat? What would you rank rooftops that overlook the stage?
I mean, I'd have to look at it. I mean, there's ways to neutralize threats. I mean, you can put up screens.
I'm just saying, like, the things you'd have to worry about. How about a rooftop or open window overseeing where he's going to be speaking? That seems to be pretty high priority.
That's literally not true. I mean, did they? Well, here's the point I'm trying to get at. Did they sweep the area for bombs? Doesn't sound like they did much. So my question is, did anybody take a look at where the president was? Did somebody do an explosive sweep? Did guys go in and clear that, then seal it, and make sure? This is the point I'm trying to make. That roof is like, first of all, it's very obvious, but I'm not even looking at that roof as I'm bringing the president onto the site.
Yeah, they could be an IED on the stage.
That roof doesn't get looked at till I have the president on the podium. And then what I'm saying is, okay, now that the president on the podium, where are the threats? So each stage has to have a complete threat elimination package and contingency package. How do we get the president out of here? Things like that. What resources are needed? They have the counter sniper guys in there. Where the president is at each point requires a different counter sniper plan. It requires a different, counter, the counter assault plan. The assault guys, you saw them, all the guys with with their automatic weapons. That's if somebody tries to physically assault the president. Their job is to counter assault, literally wade in with gunfire, suppress, and keep it suppressed while they get the president out. There are plans and contingencies for each step of the way. That's how serious this is, if it's done right. And let me put it this way. I've never personally done personal, security details. I know people who have, and I've talked to them extensively. None of them did presidential details. So the details I'm giving you right now are what's done when a Secretary of the Air Force or a Secretary of Defense or a senior military commander comes in. And it's very thorough, very professional. The president is the commander in chief. So all the stuff that I'm talking about has to be on steroids for the president, especially if you're telling me that in addition to the standard domestic threat with, the insanity of political violence and a split nation with Joe Biden saying put a target on the guy and everybody calling him Adolf Hitler and, bringing up the dead zone scenarios where it's your patriotic duty to kill the man who is an existential threat to American democracy kind of stupidity. In addition to that, we're told the Iranians are trying to kill him, and so
we should note that's been ever since he assassinated Soleimani. They've just
I know
said,
that, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying that
I know.
that there's a heightened threat. I don't. First of all, I'm telling you that the Iranians put out a lot of rhetoric. They're not trying to kill the president today. They're just simply not in their playbook. They're not going to do it.
But you're right. If they're going to claim that they're going to do it, then he should have triple security.
That's my whole point. Is that this, this should have been beefed up security. You get to that point, and where he's on the podium. Yes, now the roof stands out. That roof must be in the perimeter. It must be in the perimeter. The Secret Service must take positive control of that roof and the buildings around it. Positive control means not only have they swept it, but they own it. They have a team on top. They have a team around. They have blocked off all access. They have swept it, sealed it, cleared it, and they have a team inside just to make sure nobody gets in there. And then they have active patrolling going around it. Active patrolling to keep people away. That's manpower intensive, Scott. Yep. Welcome to securing the president of the United States or former president.
But it sloped. Kimberly Cheadle said they abdicated that duty to local police, but I don't think that who would make that decision. And shouldn't there be a special agent in charge? Like where in the command structure they say, yeah, we're just going to give that area, 150 yards away to the local police.
Under the incident command system, which, we're all supposed to be working on in the federal government, there is an incident commander. There is a commander dedicated to that site. And then each task has deputies and stuff delegated down. There's an incident commander who had to sign off on this plan. Now, I watched the testimony of the Secret Service director today before Congress, and she wouldn't commit to this, but she's lying.
You'll have to ask the FBI. That's what she kept saying.
Why would you ask the FBI? Why is the FBI involved? Last time I checked, the National Security Division of the FBI did Crossfire Hurricane. They sort of have a hard-on for President Trump. I wouldn't want the FBI anywhere near this issue. I wouldn't trust them with any aspect of this report. I'd have another agency altogether doing this. The FBI is part of the problem. They're not part of the solution. Yep. And now it turns out that the Secret Service is part of the problem because this isn't, I guess the key point I want to take away here for people to take away is that the Secret Service is a zero defect tolerant service, or at least it used to be. Meaning that especially when you get up to presidential security details, attention to detail is everything. As I told you, each one of these plans, everybody has a job, everybody has a duty, and it has to be coordinated. One hiccup, one glitch in the system, one ghost in the machine, and the president's dead. So there's zero tolerance for this. What we have here isn't negligence. This is too egregious to be negligence. What we have here is somebody wanting the president killed. That's my firm opinion of it. That this is so bad. It's such a major DEI cannot explain this. Okay, DEI alone does not explain this. This is, the president was Epstein. My wife came up with that term, but the bottom line is they took out the prison guards, put in the untrained people, turned off the cameras, and and then had people come in, kill the guy, leave, and say, "Oh, he committed suicide."
Professional incompetence.
The president was Epstein, and it wasn't.
Here's the Epstein list, by the way. We've had it out for a long time. All these people wanted him dead.
Well, there's a bunch of people that want him dead, including just about everybody in the Biden administration, apparently, who has labeled him the modern day Adolf Hitler and all this kind of stuff. But this is bad. I mean, because every aspect of the plan failed. There's no communication plan. There's no communication with the snipers. And I have to. I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to praise people, but the sniper team that took the one shot that killed the guy, I have everybody detained, held in separate rooms, cells maybe, and I'd interrogate them all separately to get their stories to match. to find out their stories match. I don't trust anybody that was on that detail. I don't trust anybody that was there that day. They
And his
kept him
regular
on.
detail had been pulled.
Well, she wouldn't commit to that, but that's what people are saying. She claims that his regular detail is there. But when I'm guessing, I think she's a wordsmith. And when we say a regular detail, the detail for the president is a number of people. There's a team that gets along with him very well. I don't know the number, about 5 guys maybe, headed by a special agent in charge. And these are the guys that they get along. My understanding is that team wasn't there, but people from the presidential detail were there, but they weren't his normal guys. And even then, they had to be
He pulled a
supplemented.
Fauci, parsing words. That's called a Fauci because, like Fauci said, well, NIH didn't do gain of function research to Wuhan. Like, oh no, you did it through an intermediary with Echo Health, but it's still your money. I mean,
It's the
on.
same thing, yeah. And so this is, she's playing word games. There's something fishy about this woman, because I'm telling you, this doesn't. And then we have the other end of the spectrum is if I didn't know who the sniper was, I didn't know anything about his identity, but someone came up to me and said he flew a drone. Already, I'm going pro. He had 3 separate telephones encrypted, that 2 of which communicated with foreign guys. Okay, pro. He was able to pre-position the ladder in a weapon. Pro. He stalked the president on a line of approach that shielded him from the counter sniper teams. Pro. And he his first 3 shots were one of them was a kill shot. Pro. The fact of the matter is he executed a successful assassination attempt. Let's just be clear about this. This was a successful assassination attempt.
Trump just turned his head at the right time. Did you hear on the phone call with RFK Jr., super Zionist, Biden said to Trump, "Why'd you turn your head? How'd you know to turn your head?" Of course, he didn't know to turn his head. But if he had turned a little bit too far right or too far left, he'd be dead.
100%. It's not too far. Just about any deviation, because the angle is such that it would have taken off the back of his skull or come in the front, and either way, he's dead. It's pink mist. His head was literally in the only position it could have been to avoid that, and that was sheer luck because he's moving. It's not like he practiced it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, twitch, and it misses. He was sitting there looking at the screen, and he did his head, but it was a kill shot. It was a successful assassination. Except that
the only thing that wasn't pro is why didn't you just shoot center mass? Why you aim at the head? You just thought, oh well, I'll get it, no problem. It's a bullet anywhere in center mass would have done it.
It's again, we don't know the details, but if what they're saying is true, he was confronted by a law enforcement officer. He oriented his weapon at the law enforcement officer, who then fell down. He then, within a short period of time, completed his stalk, rose up, and immediately took the shots. So, and again, the fact that he was able to get 3 bullets where the head should have been, that's not bad shooting. It's not the most difficult shot in the world. I hear people going, "Oh, he had to count for wind." No, he didn't. It's less than
not
100
at that distance. Yeah.
There's no wind adjustment. There's no drop adjustment. It's point aim, point impact, pretty much. And he fired the shots. If he had I don't know. I couldn't tell if he had a sling. I don't know how his weapon was. But what it tells me, again, is that he was able to rapidly get the proper, seating on the shoulder, get the cheek on the stock. He fell into a shooting position that was second nature to him. He's not an amateur. He's not somebody who came in and then had to sit there and line up and get it all lined up. He came in, fell into a shooting position, bam, 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 hit 3 shots, and then apparently he cycled off 5 more after the fact. But if you tell me all this, I'm going, this was a professional hit. This was a professional hit. And then you say, no, it's a 20-year-old social misfit who couldn't make the high school team. And I'm going, something makes no sense here. Something makes absolutely no sense here. This kid was coached. This kid had assistants. This kid, I don't think he prepositioned that ladder. I think the cops put it there. I don't think he.
Well, that's what I was going to get to,
I-
because the cops said they couldn't find it, but it's on film. There's one ladder for SWAT, and there was another ladder which was on top of AC unit. They claimed, even though there's a receipt for it at Home Depot, they're like, "What ladder? He didn't use the ladder. Why'd you get rid? You have to get rid of the ladder because there'd be a freaking ladder up against the wall. You'd have to see that on your patrols, and he can't just walk up there with it. It doesn't make any sense. It's either, he hit it in the grass under the building or whatever and put it up and went real fast. You'd still see it after he went up it too. There'd be a fucking ladder there that wasn't there before.
This is rehearsed. This implies rehearsal. This implies people knew what the plan was. They knew how to get him there, where,
he knew
how
exactly where to go.
And if
the rangefinder, I don't see any golf courses. You got to, let's see, a 20-something-year-old incel with a rangefinder. La-di-da. Let's just lose him in the crowd. Trump should never have been allowed on stage. If you have somebody that has a device that can be used for shooting somebody, why would you let him just continue? We don't know. We thought maybe he was a cop. He's wearing shorts and a gray T-shirt. You did not.
I'm telling you, the security is a step by step by step. As he approaches, he gets to phase lines, and when he gets to a phase line, there has to be a complete security check. Everything. It's like Apollo, phase line alpha. Check, check, check. Go, 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 go. All systems go. President moving to phase line Bravo. Now they move into their phase line Bravo plan, which has all been prayer up. Boom. Phase line Bravo. Go, 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 go. All systems must check in. All systems. Go, 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 go. Nothing. Go. Hold. President, hold. Find out what happened to, call sign Charlie Alpha 003. He's taking a piss. Well, fire him, replace him, and get somebody in there right now. Okay, check. Go, 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 go. Okay, move the president to phase line Charlie. That's how it works. And now you're telling me that the president is deploying to the target zone, because that's how it is to be viewed. He's now in the target zone. He is now a target. Their job is to protect the target. And you're telling me that you have a guy spotted with a gun on bear crawling up the roof to take a shot, and there's no communication. There's nobody checking in. There's no go, go, go constant. And during this period of time, you have a duty during this period of time, if you spot something, to call it. And when you call it, the team around him brings him out and go, Mr. President, we have to leave the stage. And they take him to the secure area, and they fall back on that plan until they get positive confirmation that everything's good. If they can't get positive confirmation, then they get him the hell out of the site. That's what happens. They let him go out there while they had a shooter identified with a gun on the roof.
They took pictures of him from the windows behind the building. So if you were watching the Trump speech, he would have crawled right in front of you and gotten into position. They took his photographs, and still nobody did anything. And if you had seen him, why not fire your gun in the air or something? And then the worst of all is, for 90 seconds minimal, because it's on film, people are yelling, "Officer, there's a man on the roof with a gun," or "He's right there." The crowd saw him, and the cops around the building didn't. Even when the crowd is all pointing at him and screaming about it, and they're just durr. And these are the same police, I found out, that earlier when there were Trump rallies, MAGA people would get assaulted and beat up, and they wouldn't do anything. And they would even post these videos on Twitter, and still nothing would happen. It's the same thing. They got them from Beaver County and adjacent areas, the same suburbs of Pittsburgh, super woke. That's why when in high school they say this kid was isolated or whatever, they say, yeah, he would be on one side and all of us would be on the other side, meaning the liberal side. Like, oh, really? That's how woke the school system is. The guidance counselors are telling people that they're the opposite sex. A lot of people pull their children out of that school. So this is the kind of area we're talking about. It's super, super leftist, where the police just look the other way because they're like, well, y'all are a bunch of Nazis. That's what the president said. You're an existential threat. He's basically Hitler. There's video of the cops just sitting there looking at their phones and stuff. They were not even attempting to protect the president. And that's who they abdicated to guard a rooftop.
They
And
didn't
there's more
advocate
of it.
for
It's
them.
too. They weren't really checking bags. They just kind of and then let them go through big purses and stuff.
This isn't an abdication. This isn't a mistake. They were trying to kill the president of the United States, and it has to be treated this way. It has to be treated this way. This
It
was
was predicted too.
a
So many people said they're going to have to shoot him. They've done everything else,
well.
and they
It's not
can't win.
you talk about there. There's a local mayor and county officials who are on their social media calling Trump Hitler, a threat to the security. We have to stop him. We have to do anything we can to stop him. And they're the ones who are controlling the police. So
Shapiro is one of those names to replace Biden too. Is him and Newsom. And he's out of PA.
Shapiro, yeah. So it's I don't want to hear about mistakes. I don't want to hear about sloppy work. No, this was actually the opposite. This was actually a very slick assassination attempt where, all the guys who were supposed to turn their head at the right time turned their head at the right time. All the things that were supposed to happen, get the ladder up, turn your head. Have you seen that movie, The Road to Perdition? Tom Hanks movie.
The guy can see in the future or something.
No, he's no. That's The Dead Zone. The Tom Hanks movie is he plays a 1930s hitman during the Al Capone age. And
yeah. They're like, look, you can't get revenge, but we're just all going to get out of the way so you can go to his hotel and get him.
Thank you. And that's exactly what happened. That 20-year-old kid is Tom Hanks, basically walking through everything, the hotel, up the elevator, into the room to take the shot. That's what happened. And that's pre-planned. That's coordinated. There's no mistakes. There's no accidents. Why these people aren't, well, we know why they're not, because this was something that I'm not going to say
that was it. He was Epstein. That's what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not saying Biden did this, but I'm saying that Biden's team was involved in this. The FBI was involved in this. The Secret Service was involved in this. The Department of Homeland Security was involved in this. And how do I know? Because look at this slipshod, stupid investigation they're running right now. Every person involved there should be locked up in separate cells. You have to. There was an assassination attempt against a former president. This is a frontal assault on American democracy. This is literally the frontal assault on American democracy. They all have to be pulled aside and interrogated separately. By whom, you say? Well, not the FBI. The FBI is now suspect. You need to bring in the U.S. Marshals, or you need to go to the governors and tell me we're going to deputize your best, except for Pennsylvania now because they're suspect, but you go in and you get their best state troopers, their best investigation guys, and the governors deputize them, and they come in as federal officers, and they do this thing on behalf of a convocation of governors or the United States Congress. Something has to happen. You can't let the FBI do this. This is Crossfire Hurricane people. These are the guys who hate Trump.
Apparently, after they got Trump out, too, you think, the people right around him, the people on the bleachers, for example, with some of whom got shot, you'd want to get a bunch of eyewitness testimony. What'd you see? What'd you hear?
Yep.
They just abandoned them. After the Secret Service was gone, those cops were like, la-di-da, you can go. Just pick up the trash, whatever.
How many of those people
Power wash the roof?
How many people out there had cell phones?
Yeah, you should be collecting videos.
All of them. You should have gone in and said, I'm sorry, these are all now being confiscated. We have to look at, if you were taking photographs or whatever, we have to take those now. We have to look at them. This is a major crime scene. You're going to get your phone back. Here's your name. And, we can't look at anything else. Nothing else can be used against you, but we have to look at these photographs. We have to. It's part of the thing. Everybody was out there, and people, humans, they just don't sit there and focus. They look at other things. There's some clues on those phones. Where are they?
It's only because of X that people had a place to upload what we have seen of people yelling, there's a guy on the roof and all of that. If Elon didn't have X, all of that would have been censored in the past. And you and I were both banned on everything, basically. That would not have come out. And it's come out now. There's this ADID information that somebody was visiting Crooks's home and workplace on the 4th of July, the 8th of July. They got all these dates preceding the shooting, who went back to offices in DC and one in New York. Like, who does this 20-year-old know that's visiting his work from these places? because when they did the Buffalo shooting, they had the spooks communicating with the kid on Discord. He had a small Discord following, and two of them were 3-letter agents. So maybe they wise up, said just go meet him in person, but they didn't realize that, hey, dummy, you can track wherever your phone goes through the ads. So that is on Gateway Pundit, so the source is sort of, but it's too complicated to make up. But I'm just throwing that out there as something. I do want to debunk this stuff about second and third shooters. That doesn't make sense. They have the position of the victims wrong in the videos. You'd have to figure out why they would all stop shooting after he got hit. It's like, oh, like if the goal's to kill Trump, if one of you is down, you keep going, blame it on Iran, whatever. He seemed to be the only person. And so I'm going to put that to rest. But the kookification of this event is going out strong, blaming the Iranians or having 15 shooters or whatever. They're trying to muddy the water, Alex Jones style. But no, this was one dude. They allowed him up there. They purposely looked the other way, and they did the worst. They didn't gather evidence after the fact. They didn't secure the crime scene. They're saying they didn't find the ladder, even though it's photographed. Then we find out he had a drone surveilling the area prior to. He's wandering around with a rangefinder, which at least one cop said, hey, it took that photograph. But was that shared with the inner circle? Why, if he's on the roof, if you think it's another guy, just get on. Who are you? If he doesn't answer because he doesn't have a comm link, because he isn't part of the cops, shoot him. It's just too many coincidences for this to be incompetence, even with DEI. Fully agree. But I will bring that up too. I mean, you should not have an agent that's a foot shorter than Trump trying to shield him. That doesn't make sense. You can't hire people because you want to fill up categories. You got to go based on merit.
Well, the other thing too is my understanding, and again, I don't know the veracity of this report, but that the Secret Service had was overstretched. Joe Biden had an event. They just did the NATO summit, and so people were taking vacation. So to fill the spots, they opened up certain positions for DHS, investigators to play, Secret Service for a day or something like that.
The DHS.
Yeah, and that's like, it's the equivalent of, we got Bin Laden. All right, we're gonna kill him. All right, SEAL Team 6, Red Team. All right, but we're gonna let 60% of Red Team go home on leave, and we're gonna bring in the Boy Scouts. Oh, okay, we'll let the Boy Scouts play SEAL Team 6 Tier 1, special operators for a day. And so now you got a bunch of Boy Scouts out there, doing their airsoft or whatever. And then
it's Tora Bora.
Yeah, then the bad things happen, and they're not ready for it because they're not that. They're just role playing. It's cosplay or whatever. This is ridiculous. A Secret Service agent is a Secret Service agent is a Secret Service agent. You had people there that, I have to tell you, if some of those women were Secret Service agents, they should be fired on the spot after their performance.
It doesn't look like they could pass the Cunningham physical fitness test that they're supposed to do.
No, it doesn't look like it could pass.
Like Rosie O'Donnell meets the Blues Clues, or the Blues Brothers, excuse me. Like Blues Clues was in the brain, maybe. We got mail. Just can't holster their gun. They're in a panic. Whatever. I have a family member who was in the uniformed Secret Service. Marty Allen was his name. He's passed away, so I can say that. But that guy did not look like them. That's all I can say. It was a little bit of pride, and he guarded the Clintons. He just did who guarded whoever he had to do. He was at Gerald Ford's. He was a pallbearer for his casket, and these guys were professional at that time. I don't know when it went on the decline or whatever, but watching what I saw in that video, there were a number of them that just physically shouldn't have been there. You can look at them and go, and you can't be a Secret Service agent. And then somebody else who's in shape and knows what they're doing was passed over to hire these people.
Yeah, no, that's, it's the same way. Look, the U.S. military screwed. and again, I have nothing against women in the military. I'm glad there have many patriotic women. There's plenty of jobs for them. Back in the 1990s, when I was doing the Iraq thing, Delta Force had a special squadron, an intelligence squadron that allowed women in at the time, and they performed perfectly in their job. Their job was
Yeah, some
to
of them.
all of them, all of the women
No,
in
I
that
mean,
job.
like, yeah, all of them. But I mean, some women, like, if you can do the job, you can do the job. But that's not what I'm talking about. They are
No,
just
no, but you're
filling
not.
up suits.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they were recruited to do a job that played to the skill sets they brought. They
Mhm.
were never allowed to be assaulters. They were never allowed to be breachers. They were never allowed to be on, in an assault squadron. They couldn't be, because that's not their job. They had a different. They were the intelligence gatherers. They were in the people that went in and did the preparation of the battlefield. But they weren't the assaulters, because there's a completely different standard that they can't meet. The same thing when the Marine Corps said we're going to let women into Marine infantry battalions. There's not a woman in an infantry battalion today that meets the standard of the United States Marine Corps infantry. They have all been given different physical standards because look, Marine infantry officer basic training. They used to have to do 25-mile forced march with a 100-pound pack. No woman could ever complete that march. They got shin splints. They couldn't handle. Their bodies weren't built for it. So
Michelle
rather than
Obama
say,
could.
pardon?
Michelle Obama could do it.
No, that's a different issue. But the point is, so you think, well, that means no woman can be in the Marine Corps infantry as an
There
officer.
might be
No,
one day. There might be
we did
some
away with it. We did
TVs,
away
but
with it. So now when they pass the test, they're not doing the real test. It's something other than what the Marine Corps originally envisioned to be an infantry officer qualification course. And when you do that, you reduce lethality. Women integrated units aren't as lethal as all male units, and you increase your own casualty rate because you're slower, you're not as effective, you're not as coordinated. And so overall, we have Marine battalions that are in some cases 20, maybe 30% less effective than the all male. But this is unacceptable. Unacceptable, but that's what we've done. So now you go to the Secret Service, and she wouldn't admit to the number, but she's tried to get 30% of the force to be women.
oh,
Well,
that goes to your point
there's
about
no woman
parsing
that can pass
words.
the original physical fitness test.
They asked her, "Did you try to get a third, which would be 33%, right? Did you try to
Right.
get a third of it to be women?" I never tried to get a third of it. Like, okay, what 30% then? Oh, I'm not going to answer that. It's on film
Yeah, but,
saying it.
but
It's
the
at
point is, if you're going to
24%.
bring in 30% women and they can't pass the physical fitness exam, then you can't have 30% women. If you're going to make it 30% women, then you've changed the complete standard, and now you're screwed. Because now I don't know all of the Secret Service, but I'm sure they have, mobility, shooting, accuracy, things of that nature. Those are all waived. Everything's waived. The women can't do the job, and yet there they are.
I think possibly some of the women who have a penis can. That's where we're at today. Just like, what's a woman? Is this a woman? I can't believe it. It's all for political correctness, even at the most important jobs. And it's a lot of other things too, where just unqualified people of all kinds of different categories are having lower standards just to get more of the men they want equal outcome. And the idea that everything is going to be evenly divided on every kind of job along all the different ethnic groups and da 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 da, is the probability of that happening naturally is almost zero. People specialize in different things, but they want to force it to be that way, and you're going to see stuff falling apart faster than Boeing.
Yep.
Boeing is it's hurting, and some of that is them just cutting corners, but some of it's DEI or going to be blamed on DEI. That's another thing about the planned incompetence. But Cheadle, so you watched the hearing she did. The first debriefing, she only answered 4 questions, and then this one they did today, I fell asleep listening to it because she was just saying at every tough question, well, that's being investigated by the FBI, so you'll have to talk to them. She didn't want to answer anything.
And you could tell they got frustrated because she has given a number of interviews to the media where she told the media far more than she's willing to tell the U.S. Congress. You know, this is, I mean, I tell you what, the fact that we have Democrats and Republicans alike agreeing that she has to go is a rare moment of partisan agreement.
Though she belongs in prison. She needs to be forced to answer these questions because she look, you're the head of the Secret Service. You know which agents were in charge of what. You know who decided this will be the parameter. You know all of that. You don't need the FBI. You made these decisions. Tell us the names. Tell us who decided to do these at minimal, extremely incompetent decisions. Who was it? And that's the thing, is there's no accountability because there was a point when she said, well, it would be a council or a number of people. There was never just a boss, which I don't think is true. But she's just saying, oh, it would have been, okay, who are all those people? Tell us, give us the whole thing.
I would have just asked her straight up, does the Secret Service comply with federal law requiring an incident command system to be the organizing principle? Is the Secret Service in compliance with that law? Yes. Who is the incident commander? It's that simple. Do you comply with federal law requiring you to adhere to the incident command system? Yes, we do. Who is the incident commander?
Yeah.
Don't tell me, because in the incident command system, there's no such thing as a collegial group of people getting together and, doing it, holding hands, singing Kumbaya and coming up with some sort of consensus driven agreement. No, there's a commander. That's what it's all about. A commander, the buck stops here kind of commander. Who was the incident commander? Who is the person in charge of that incident? Because that's what it was. It's an incident, and the incident command system requires you to have an incident commander.
Do you see the spiteful writings by CNN and MSNBC when it happened, saying Trump evacuated because of popping noises and just all this ridiculous stuff?
He fell down.
Yeah, he fell down because of they took him down after a fall. Unreal. And you'd think, okay, that's not true, and that's going to be uncovered within minutes, and you still wrote it anyway because they're signaling to each other, look how much I hate the guy. Look at this title. It's so disgusting. They've dehumanized, and I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I made a movie called Trump Sinus Ball and Chain and went over all the dumb stuff he's done. But they have dehumanized this person. I mean, you can't compare Trump to Hitler. He did not murder millions of people. It's not on the same level at all. He's not Netanyahu, but he is an ally of it, and it is pretty bad. But they all are. And that little creature is going to be talking to Congress here in a couple of days. We have some questions from chat. One just says F Israel. That's fun. Scarecrow says, do you think this was a last ditch effort to save Biden's campaign? And maybe that's why the assassination failed, so he resigned. Do you think this was a last ditch effort to save Biden?
No, I think I think it's part and parcel. I think we're looking at parallel activities. One is to eliminate Trump, and the other is to eliminate Biden. Biden was, I believe, targeted by the establishment, and we saw it yesterday and today. It's a soft coup. It's literally a soft coup to remove him from power and to insert somebody, Kamala Harris, who now can't win a primary. The whole thing, to pretend that Biden's cognitive decline only happened on June 27th. Look, I watched that debate. Biden didn't do well. He may have had a bad, but it wasn't his worst night. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. CNN went into an explosion. John King, my phone is exploding. My phone is exploding. Why, John? That was not his worst moment. 2 weeks ago at the G7, he was worse. Why wasn't your phone exploding then? 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, he froze on the podium, couldn't pronounce words, literally froze. His body's been in the frozen mode, doing the slow walk.
He's shaking hands with John Cena. He's walking off the wrong direction, just aimlessly. He introduced Zelensky as Putin, which was just awesome.
But over a year, this has been happening. So why suddenly on a bad night, he had a bad night, but it wasn't his worst performance. And to say that that's the evidence of his cognitive decline, no, this was an ambush. And as soon as the debate ended, they all immediately went into this mode to get him out. Why? Because he already had the primary. He secured it. Now that if they remove him, Kamala, because if he had lived up to his promise to be a one-term president, to pass it off to the younger generation, which logically would meet Kamala Harris, she would have to go through a primary, which she wouldn't have survived. Kamala can't win a primary, incapable of winning a primary. In which case, Kamala wouldn't be there, somebody else couldn't. And the establishment wants to control this. And so they've done something where Kamala is selected, not elected. And she's going to go up and be their candidate. They're going to raise a whole bunch of money for her, and they're going to do what they did with Biden. It doesn't matter who Kamala is. If they can get enough people to hate
it's Anthony
Donald
Blinken
Trump,
running the show.
Yeah.
I wonder if he could tap out right beforehand because of COVID or whatever, and then she could pardon him and his son. Let's see. KGB Josh says, Big Ritter in the house, considering your trip to Russia was intercepted. Will you be planning a new one soon?
Well, I mean, I once I get my passport back, and then we'd be in the process of doing that. I expect to get the passport back before the summer's out, and then
I hope you were refunded all the money that must have cost.
No, hell no. They're not going to refund me anything. They won't even talk to me. They won't even talk. They won't even return my calls. They won't. It's just total silence. Now I could go to a federal court and seek an injunction and begin all this process, and I have constitutional law on my side. But as we know, in the United States of America, the Constitution,
more,
and it would just cost me more money and tie this thing up forever because there's appellate process. And at the end of the day, when you take a look at recent district court and appellate court rulings, they just yield to the government all the time. They'll say, yes, the Constitution says this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, but, and then they put this but that's not covered by any Supreme Court precedent or the Constitution. They just make up their own law. And then you have to appeal, and you go through the appellate process, and it can take years. And if I did that, they wouldn't issue me a passport, and then I'd be denied the ability to travel for years. So I'm just going to go ahead and forego that and just get my damn passport back.
How about we do a fundraiser for you on your behalf since you got shafted? Would you be okay with that?
What I would ask is that you do it on behalf of the September 28th project, which is the project that I'm putting together to make preventing nuclear war an electoral priority.
Well, you can take it and put the money wherever you want.
Okay, I'll accept it that way. But I mean, I don't, we lost a lot of money. I mean, I cry when I think about the amount of money we lost, but it is what it is. It's
I've heard, that's why I brought it up.
It happened, and you can't really, if you get bitter about it, then they win. So, take the loss, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward, which is the last thing they want you to do. And sometimes it's the last thing they expect you to do. So screw them. I produced when we were going there, we were supposed to go for like 40 some odd days. And so, I made a challenge coin that was the challenge coin concept. I did one for the first trip, huge hit, one for the second trip, huge hit. So we did one for the third one. And, we were going to sell them to raise money for the trip and all this stuff. Of course, now I have a huge inventory of them. So I've been trying to get them off. And am I allowed to swear on your channel?
You can say whatever the fuck you want. We just usually don't.
Well, this coin, I call it the "fuck you, Tony Blinken" coin, because
I want one.
This was the coin that was supposed to be used for the 40-day tour, and Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, is the guy who ordered my passport to be seized. So when I market this coin, I call it the "fuck you, Tony Blinken" coin. And if you buy this coin, you're telling Tony Blinken, "Fuck you."
To show you how much I agree with that, I drink Boycott Israel coffee out of my Go to Hell John McCain mug.
Man, see, we're on the same page. Yeah.
And I'm not even a coffee drinker. I just thought I will eat that coffee. I'll drink that. We got End All Aid to Israel on the other side with the $sign on the bombs, because that's who we do enable it, unfortunately. But I'll send you some of this. I'll send this to New York. Why not?
Well, I have a son-in-law who drinks coffee, so we can do that.
I mean, this is good just to have on the shelf. Like, the package is funny.
I'll put it right behind me, so it's right there.
That's awesome. All right, yeah, and we'll give some to your son-in-law too. A fan gave me this, but I have so much anti-McCain stuff in the shop. It's his anniversary's coming up in 2 days because he kicked the bucket on August 25th. We have a month anniversary of Dead McCain Day, which means every Christmas is a double holiday because that's always on the 25th. And so I will be doing the John McCain Still Dead celebration here. We always go and eat at the Vietnam restaurant. We always say Al Qaeda has its flag at half mast. I tend to pick on McCain, Lincoln, and Lindsey Graham in almost every show. Just why not, But so, yeah, we'll send that out to you, and I think I can get you a fundraiser. I know I'll talk to you afterward about something I think will help you quite a bit, but yeah, I mean, I'm in full agreement as far as the shooter. This seems like planned incompetence. I want a real investigation into those police. I want to know the names. I want to know who made all the bad decisions, but I don't think that's going to happen because that's the part
No.
of, before you do something like this, you have to have the cover up in place. And right now they run everything. They run the FBI, they run the Secret Service, and I believe that was the main motive. So another one is, Trump's talking about getting out of Ukraine, getting out of NATO. Russia's going to win that war regardless. I think the thing they're scared about the most is the one they brought up and yelled about the most, which was he's going to seek retribution. Yeah, why shouldn't he? You crossed that line. You guys weaponized the FBI, went after him, his kids, his business, accused him of rape, with all this crazy stuff. You already crossed that line. And yeah, especially after being shot at and all that and having to pay $400 million. Yeah, he's gonna come after you. That's why they need him dead.
I would hope he wouldn't, because I don't think America's supposed to be wired that way, but he's going to. I think you're 100% correct, and it's human nature. And while I will mourn the death of civility in American politics, because once we start having political parties prosecute political parties, we're headed down a slippery slope towards civil war. And so be it. Maybe that's the purging that America needs. But it's not a good thing. But Biden didn't need to do any of this. Biden could have shut it all down. There's not a single prosecution that was brought up against Trump that would have been would have been continued by the prosecutors had it been anybody who wasn't named Trump. This is purely the weaponization of the justice system to punish Trump, not just punish Trump, but to nullify Trump as a political entity. The whole idea was to keep Trump from being able to mount a challenge in 2024. And they have failed across the board. I mean, and again, but the failure means that Trump has now weaponized the courts to counter the weaponization of the Justice Department. The third branch of American government, the judicial branch, it's broken. It's corrupted by both sides, and it always has been for some time now. But all pretense of fair and equal justice is gone. It's finished, and now we have an executive that increasingly is becoming a proponent of the unitary executive, which is another term for dictatorship. And we have a Congress that is just, it's literally a self-nullifying body of incompetence designed to raise money and spend money as opposed to legislate and pass laws and govern.
What they warned Batman about, mirrored escalation.
Yeah, we're broken. We're a fundamentally broken country. Hate to say it, but that's sort of the truth.
Well, he's going, unless they kill him, he's going to be the president. And I think it's more than just Trump's a shoo-in for president. He's become the kingmaker because now a lot of Republicans, MAGA Republicans, are going to win Congress, governors, and so on. If Trump gives them that touch of approval, he can get some MAGA allies in Congress and in the state governments. They really, that bullet missed. Well, it didn't miss. It hit Trump, I guess, but it clipped Trump and nailed Biden. It nailed the whole DNC. They really blew it because now he has more support than ever. And he already was teetering on landslide. And now, and if Trump goes up against Kamala, I don't think she wins 5 states.
Well, it's
She
just
might get the super liberal ones, but
it's hilarious how the mainstream media is suddenly. I mean, they are so pro Kamala. So I mean, they're like painting her to be the greatest thing, and I'm like, have we lived in the same country? With
she's up in these streets, yo. Have you seen that?
Yeah, no, she's literally they're pumping her up so much that the fall is going to be spectacular because she will not be able to sustain the hype. She's incapable of it. She's not competent enough to do this, and you know her failings you can only paper them over for so long right now with all the enthusiastic endorsements because now everybody's just falling over themselves to endorse her, endorse her, endorse her. It's July, ladies and gentlemen. August, September, October, 3 months. And if you think Kamala Harris can navigate 3 months without making the biggest, dumbest mistakes in the history of presidential politics, then
Who's going to tell us Russia's a big country, Ukraine is a smaller country?
But
she said that on a black radio show, and every time she talks to black people, she talks to them like they're a bunch of little kids.
She treats them like a bunch of little kids and a bunch of crap. And I don't understand why much of the black community rallies around her. I mean, I see some. There's some out there that call her out for what she is. I mean, she's a horrible human being, literally a horrible human being. There's nothing redeeming about her.
Cackling psychopath. I think they're going to be surprised at how many blacks vote Republican this go around,
or just don't vote.
Yeah, or don't vote at all.
Which is the same as a vote for Republican, because Trump nailed down his base. The bottom line is that everybody's at that Republican National Convention saying, "Oh well, you didn't get much boost." What he did is he nailed down his base. He has a solid found at 43% vote that's not going to move. It's there. And you got RFK Jr. in the race. He's going to get 10%, maybe 11%. You got Jill Stein and a bunch of others that might bring in another 10%. And now 43, 10, that's 53, 11, that's 64. That leaves 36% for the Democrats, which isn't enough to beat 43%. But of that 36%, how many are going to just not participate because they're so disgusted by what happened? And I see the potential, as you just said, for an absolute electoral landslide come November. But it's July, and anybody who says they know who's going to win an election in November and July is a fool, because there's just so much going to happen. This is Trump's election to lose, but I also believe that Trump is fully capable of losing this election because he's just not the smartest guy in the world. And and he surrounds himself with the dumbest people in the world. I mean, J.D. Vance, God bless the hillbilly. But first thing he did is come out and talk about bombing Iran. I mean, he might as well have been John McCain.
And China.
In China. It's like, wait a minute. Remember, you're supposed to be the guy talking about peace and not be. But I think the Trump team has pulled him in. You heard his most recent things. We're not the world's policemen. We're not this. We're not that. And that's the reality. But the Vance isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, and
in the shed. Yeah.
And Trump is problematic. So the Republicans can totally screw this up. I think what we're going to be seeing between now and November isn't that a candidate's going to rise to the occasion. It's going to be the one that stumbles the most to fall out of it. And I think that's going to be Kamala. I think she's grossly incompetent. At least Trump can always fall back on a base. What is Kamala's base? She can't win a primary. So her base is going to be the 30%, 36% of the Democrats that are going to vote Democrat no matter what.
That's why she tapped out last time when Tulsi Gabbard basically threw her in the locker. She tapped out because she didn't want the embarrassment of losing her home state. She couldn't win a primary in any territory.
Yeah.
Ron Paul won more primaries, and with everything against him, he won the Virgin Islands. She couldn't do that. He did. He got second place in Virginia. I mean, it was really close, and he got second in a bunch. And I think there's a lot of shenanigans there. I don't have a lot of faith in our elections with dead people voting and mail-in votes that you can't trace back to know where they came from. But even with the cheating, I don't think they can do this. And I don't understand why every state doesn't have voter ID. That it's not racist to have voter ID. That should have been done, and the Republicans have done nothing about it. They've had 4 years to one thing: get voter ID in federal elections across the board, every county in the state. Other than Arizona, they finally got it, but that nothing else. They're not going to change. And like Trump won every single state that had voter ID last time. Every
Well,
single
that's
one.
because, yeah, and the funny thing is, you take a look at elections around the world, all the places that we condemn as being non-democratic. You go to a poll in Russia, you got to show your ID. They compare you with a roster. They check you off. They hand you the ballot. You vote. You dye your finger or whatever you do, and you walk out and you voted.
Yeah.
Iran, same thing.
If you want to get on a plane, you need an ID.
Got to
If you
have an
want
ID.
to, yeah, buy alcohol, you got. I
Drive a
mean,
car. You want to do anything, you got to have an
yeah.
ID. Not to vote though. For voting, you don't need an ID. You just show up. No, it's insane. It's insane.
There's no excuse for it. It's incompetence all the way down. And if we had a functional media, which we don't, all these things that you and I point out that are just blatantly obvious could be taken care of in days. There ought to be voter ID. That's the one. That's an easy one, But the press is just part of the corporate entity. They're there like a propaganda machine selling wars. They sold the Iraq War. They sold Syria. They sold Libya. They're all Ukraine flag, rah rah NATO, even though they broke the Minsk Accords and attacked Donbass and started the whole thing. It's just there's no one there, and that's what needs to be cleaned up. And I think alt media, it's more likely to build up new media than it is to get reform in the legacy media.
Well, I agree. The legacy media is on the way out, anyways. I think alternative media is becoming the go-to for the majority of people for their news. It puts pressure on us to make sure we do a better job and have a modicum of standards. But since there's no standards at all in mainstream media, our competition is pretty thin.
I think I want the mainstream media there so I know what's definitely wrong. People say they don't watch it, but I watch the mass media like I'm gathering intel. I'm like, okay, what do they want me to think? What do they want me to think?
I view it as gathering intelligence on the enemy because they are the enemy. Yeah,
they absolutely lie. They like this genocide in Gaza should not continue. And this is Netanyahu's here right now. You can smell the sulfur. He's in the United States. He'll be meeting with Congress. Maybe he can surpass his 55 standing ovations they gave him last time. This is a foreign head of state with an unregistered lobby to get to talk to Congress. But what do you think he's going to pull? I mean, some people say now's a great time to get a ceasefire. Or is he stupid enough to go into Lebanon? I think he's just flexing to his home base that, look, I control America. Keep me around. But what are your thoughts?
That's all it is. First of all, they can't go into Hezbollah. They can't go against Hezbollah. They don't have the military force to do it. The military has been fundamentally broken by Hamas. I don't think he's going to be pushing for a ceasefire right now because it doesn't meet any of his requirements. So he is treading water, which puts him in an extremely difficult political situation unless he can do something to change the equation. And that's what he's doing. He's coming to the United States and he's going to get him wrap himself in the American flag, get anointed by the Israeli-controlled Congress, and then go back to Israel and say, I am the chosen one. I'm the one that the United States has, says must lead Israel. And so Israel, and he hope it buys him some time until, either a miracle occurs or he needs to do another a political trick to stay in power. But this isn't about Israel winning. This isn't about Israeli security. This is about the political legacy of Benjamin Netanyahu. And, he's basically turned this conflict that has cost, hundreds of thousands of lives. It's just an empowerment vehicle for him. That's the reality. This is about Benjamin Netanyahu being able to hold on to power as long as possible to avoid prosecution for being a corrupt Israeli politician.
Even Shin Bet and Mossad are saying we can't beat Hamas and you need a ceasefire. You need to shift the goalpost back to something reasonable, declare victory, and get out. They're running out of tanks It's not that they're being destroyed, it's that they're being uh messed up enough that they need to be repaired and they don't have the spare parts.
Yep. Israel's never prepared to fight a 9-month war. Never. They don't have the spare part inventory for that. They don't have the ammunition for that. They don't have anything. Their military is not designed for this level of high intensity sustained conflict. The nation's not geared for it. Everything about this battle with Hamas is, off the books, so to speak. Couldn't have been anticipated. Wasn't prepared. And in the military, if you didn't imagine it, if you didn't anticipate it, if you didn't prepare for it, then you're just making it up as you go along. Because the military is all about, planning, having a plan, operations plan in place where you've thought out all the potential, options and consequences. And right now, Israel's writing it as they go along, just making it up because there was nothing. Even the war plans they did to go to war against Hezbollah, they can't use them because that was predicated on Israel having 100% capacity available to take on Hezbollah. They never once factored that there would have been a 9-month war with Hamas that chewed up everything.
Didn't they do war games in 2022 and 2023 where they lost to Hezbollah?
Yeah, they did. They did a war game in both those years. It was basically a stress test of the Israeli Defense Force if everybody attacked them at once. And the majority of the fighting, of course, would have been done in the north against Hezbollah. Iran would have joined in, etc. Two things. One, Israel lost every time. They couldn't win it, and that's with all of their forces that could be mustered against Hezbollah going up. They couldn't win. But two, it was predicated also on the notion that Hamas would just be the worst Hamas would do is a modern day intifada. They never once thought that Hamas would launch a preemptive attack that sucked Israel into a war it couldn't win, that would grind up its military before they could even begin to engage Hezbollah. The fact of the matter, Israel is not prepared for the war that they're fighting right now, and they aren't going to win this war. But war is an extension of politics by other means, and right now the political objective of Israel, of the Israeli government, isn't how best to position Israel for long-term survival, but rather how best to position Netanyahu for short-term political viability.
Clausewitz. We have a question from somebody saying, Zenith or Scott saying, I have family that will be working in Yemen next month. Considering the recent strike, how much danger could there be in the future?
Yemen's a war zone, but it depends what they're doing. If they're, bringing
they
in
seem
Russian
to be striking
missiles,
the ports.
If they work in the ports, look, the port is a target. Israel will will continue to hit the targets. Airports will become a target. Flying in and out of Sana'a will be a problem. And then you have the issue of what happens when food supply and other life essentials are squeezed, sanctioned, etc. It would have to be a hell of a good job and pay you a hell of a lot of money to justify the risk of going in there. But
yeah, if you can not work in Yemen, don't. It is a war zone. Tiffanel, I think worked for Kamala, says we call her the hyena. They only refer to her as the hyena. So her staff doesn't like her either. Talking about Kamala Harris. Yeah, she likes to cackle when she gets nervous, but I don't want to hear anyone say you can't suck your way to the top. She has proven otherwise. But we will see. Scott, I don't want to hold you for too long. Appreciate your time. Every time you come on the show, it's a home run. I did want to talk about Ukraine with you, but the assassination was more important. So maybe we'll get you back on soon. And
we can do Ukraine. Ukraine's not going away anytime soon, so don't worry about it.
No, yeah, that's why it's my same logic. I'm like, oh, it's still gonna be there. Yeah. I'm gonna send you some of this. I'm gonna DM you on Twitter about something else, and then I'll get that to your son-in-law as well. All right, everybody, it's the great Scott Ritter.
All right,
see you tomorrow.
Good talking to you.
And we're gonna be celebrating John McCain's Still Dead Day.
Okay, I'll be with you. Bye.
Bye.